Growing up, I visited Dorney Park a lot, and it was always one of my favorite parks because of its charm, despite the fact that the park doesn't have the greatest coaster lineup. Dorney Park just opened their first original coaster in almost 20 years and it was a major success. It ended up being one of the best coasters to open up in the US this year, and it's safe to say it was a huge win for the park. I don't think it's the last coaster we're going to see the park open this decade though, and I think there are three major reasons why the future of Dorney Park is going to be a lot better than most people think. First of all, I want to talk about Dorney Park's new general manager, Jessica Naderman. A few years ago, it was rumored Dorney Park was preparing to open a Gravity Group shuttle coaster for the 2021 season, which would take up the plot of land Possessed currently stands on, causing for the removal of the Intamin Impulse coaster. The project was indeed going to happen, but it got delayed in 2020. When Dorney Park got a new general manager in 2022, she scrapped those plans right away. She didn't understand why the park would want to remove a coaster to build a new one when they barely got new coaster additions as it is. She also didn't understand why the park would want to open a small wooden coaster when they already had a wooden coaster that was on the small side. Sure, Thunderhawk is 100 years old and isn't the best wooden coaster by any means, but surely there was another coaster option the park could use more than another wooden coaster. She sat down with B&M and they came up with 3 proposals for the plot of land without forcing the removal of Possessed. The park would go with the dive coaster as Jessica felt it was a ride that not only would draw in the crowds, but would also make for a great experience to both riders and bystanders as they watched the menacing ride hold riders over the scary steep drop. Dive coasters have always been successful rides and Iron Menace would end up being no different. It's funny how everyone thought Hershey Park's next coaster will be a massive B&M dive coaster, and Dorney just came in and swooped that away from them, being first to the dive coaster in the region. I don't think anyone expected someone to build a dive coaster before Hershey Park in that area of the country, and I definitely don't think anyone expected Dorney Park to be the one to do it. It's safe to say this was a very good decision by the Dorney Park team led by the new general manager, and with a decision like that, I'm very optimistic about the future of the park. The park has also been marketing themselves very well through their social media team and has been doing a spectacular job in the PR area, which leads me to think the new general manager is guiding the park in the right direction across every front. There are 2 major reasons I am optimistic about the park's future, and I think the park will be getting a lot more investment than anyone is expecting over the next few years. Obviously, the success of Iron Menace will play a huge role in how often the park gets investments in the future and how large those investments are. Iron Menace was the best coaster to open in 2024 from both the Six Flags and Cedar Fair parts of the new Six Flags chain, which also brought it a ton of attention. Top Thrill 2 was closed all year after opening for just 6 days, and The Flash at Great Adventure and Georgia Surfer at Over Georgia were both delayed to 2025. All this was quite disappointing, but it definitely worked in Dorney Park's favor and gave the park a true chance to shine with their brand new B&M dive coaster. Iron Menace definitely brought more people to the park and it gave them a ton of publicity as well. I think when Six Flags sees the numbers this park grew by in 2024, they will definitely agree to give the park another coaster by the end of the decade. There's another factor also that makes a major difference to Dorney Park's future and is something I took a while to realize myself. This is Six Flags Great Adventure. Until now, Dorney always competed with Great Adventure and Hershey Park and really struggled for a footing in the region. The water park was extremely successful, but the amusement park never quite made it when compared to the 2 big giants Dorney is surrounded by. That all changes now though, as Great Adventure is now in the same Six Flags chain as Dorney Park, and the chain will likely try to utilize both parks together to compete with Hershey Park. They could offer 2 park tickets and 2 park passes that work at both Dorney Park and Great Adventure, which will be a major win for them. Guests that live in the Great Adventure area that normally will go to Great Adventure and Hershey Park now have an extra incentive to go to Dorney Park as they get cheaper tickets with their Great Adventure tickets. Six Flags will now be able to draw guests from the Dorney area to Great Adventure and guests from the Great Adventure area to Dorney. Guests will now have the extra reason to visit the Six Flags parks over Hershey Park, and it could even give Six Flags a boost in attendance and season pass sales. All this will likely lead to Dorney Park being more successful, though that wouldn't be all. Dorney would also need to be an attractive park with new rides every couple of years to keep visitors wanting to choose the Dorney Great Adventure package over Hershey Park. I think this region is going to see a lot of competition over the next decade, and Six Flags is going to have to keep Dorney Park relevant in order to sell those two park passes. Keep in mind that Dorney Park arguably has a better water park than Great Adventure and Hershey Park, which gives just another reason to go the Six Flags way. I also think Six Flags Great Adventure will be getting a lot of investment over the next few years to bring the quality of the park up to Cedar Fair level. The park will likely also get a hotel, as Cedar Fair opened hotels at some of their parks as recently as 2019, and they are the ones in charge of Six Flags now for the most part. The success of Great Adventure is something to talk about another time, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out if I ever do a video on that. But if Great Adventure gets a new hotel, it will be heavily marketed as a great resort to spend 3 days at between the water park, amusement park, and safari. I think that's another thing that can drive many more guests to make the trip to Dorney Park. If they have an extra day with nothing to do during their vacation, they may very well decide to make the under 1.5 hour drive to Dorney Park, which they'd get discounted tickets to. Similar to how SeaWorld Orlando offers guests discounted tickets and a free shuttle to Busch Gardens Tampa. For all these reasons, I think we will see the Six Flags chain put a much bigger focus on keeping Dorney Park relevant over the next bunch of years and better competing with Hershey Park. I'd expect a ton of investment in the water park area, including a brand new water coaster coming in the next few years, as well as a nice family attraction and a flat ride package. I think Dorney Park will then opt to open a new coaster that will be a major thrill coaster that also slightly targets families, keeping the park's lineup properly balanced. There are a lot of options Dorney Park could go with for the next coaster, and it's too far away to start speculating. But I'd love to see some sort of family launch coaster open at the park for the 2028 season. I definitely see Dorney Park getting a lot more investment this next decade than it got the previous decade. And though I don't think the park will ever become the world-class theme park, I think it can easily become one of the best regional theme parks in the area. The aesthetic and charm of Dorney Park has made it even better than it seems from the outside, and the park already has a very solid lineup of attractions. The park's water park isn't one to sleep on either, and it's one of the best in the area, and I'm honestly very excited and optimistic about the future of this park. Dorney Park is truly turning the page, and though they may not be getting any record-breaking, insane roller coasters anytime soon, I think their future is one of the brightest. Kings Island, on the other hand,